Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining. We will get started in just a second. Thank you very much for joining again today. This is a weekly event. It's great to see you, James. Thanks very much for joining. Feel free to drop your name in the chat where you're from if you'd like to, and we will get started very soon on today's topic, which is around day-to-day task management with Copilot and some of the things which we've learned in our journey as a business, and hopefully what you can apply to yourselves as well. Just a reminder, this is a recorded session, so let's all respect each other online, but feel free to come off of mute if you want to chat. You can engage by chat, by voice, whatever is your preference. This is a safe learning zone, and as usual, we will be going through this together with a lot of new technologies, and feel free to contribute and engage as you see fit as we go through. This is a bit about me. You can find out more about me online, but let's cut to the really interesting thing, which is the agenda today and what we're going through. So Copilot, quick overview of Copilot at the start. And what I'm going to try to do is bring this to life with a few different types of things which you can use Copilot for, and hopefully that'll make sense as we go through. As always, we'd like to give away some free gifts at the end of these events, so please stick by. We've got a great one today where you can make an impact on some great projects around the world as well. So stick by at the end of the session for that as well. So Copilot overview. Well, one thing that Copilot doesn't do, of course, is remind me to turn off the music on my event. So bear with me and I will just change that down and we can come off. There we go. Good. So Copilot, how does it work? Well, Copilot is something like ChatGPT, and we can chat to it. It's an agent, essentially, and it's using large language models behind it, like ChatGPT, which is its own language model, but Copilot uses many more. And Copilot does something else as well. It's not just an engine, really, or a helper, I like to call it, for prompting. It's embedded in a lot of Microsoft's applications as well, and we'll give you a feel for some of that as we go through. But I did like to ask Copilot how it works. So how do you work, Copilot? I asked it earlier, and here it neatly summarized what it was up to, much like many other prompting things. But as I said, Copilot is using a lot of its own language models. Now, there's a free version of Copilot, and we'll go into some different ways that you can get access to it in the next couple of slides. There's a free version of it, but there's also a premium version of it as well. And we are going to be talking today about some of those premium elements, because whilst Copilot as an accelerator can really help us, and it's free version, and there's lots of great prompts and things like that, which you can do with it, it really starts to lift the game even more when you start to use this with some of your business applications. So getting started. Well, if you are in Windows, you might see this logo around. This is the Copilot logo. It is included as part of certain subscriptions and free levels. You really need to look into the licensing, and that is something you will need to speak to your IT colleagues around. There are some limited offers around from Microsoft at the moment. If you speak to your partners around this, and unfortunately, as is the case with subscriptions, they do tend to go up most of the time. And we are looking towards April with some rises. So if you want to lock in the current costs, now is the time to do so. And that's just not talk about Copilot, let's talk about everything. So, you know, even if you're a micro organization with 1 or 2 licenses, and you might want to check that out before you lose the opportunity. You can access Copilot in well, from the ribbon there if you've put it in place, or you can also go into a browser. And quite often when you open it up, it's going to prompt you, if you are in your work environment or work laptop, for example, which one of the accounts that you might want to use. Now, this is an important distinction, because I know that there's a bit of a gold rush moment. We're all rushing to AI and what it can do. And there's you know, some really great tools out there, quite frankly. But from an organization perspective, it's another one of those shadow IT moments where, yeah, people are buying their SaaS solutions and all that. We've seen all that before. Well, now it's the same thing, but with AI. And there's not necessarily a big problem with that, but there could be. And it depends what people are using corporate data for and how well secured it is. So just outside of the artificial intelligence boundaries, really Copilot, which is a helper, then, you know, there's things that we can do to lock our information down. And that should really be part and parcel of your looking at what you're doing with it. But again, one of the benefits here for Copilot is it kind of ring fences your corporate data, and you can have certain locks on it to enhance that. If we take a look at what this experience looks like from the web, so you can all do this now. Go to copilot.microsoft.com, whether you're watching live or catching up on the video later on. But this is that Copilot space. It's a bit like ChatGPT and some of the other things, but Microsoft's version of it. Now, we will use that in a live demo a bit later, but I want to give you an overview in this session. Again, a little bit deeper than we've done in previous Copilot sessions, if you've been watching along, because here we're going to start to focus on some of the business applications and what you need to be mindful of as you essentially move forwards in the setup of this as an IT admin. So I am changing my hat. I haven't got a hat lying around. I have got a cup of tea though, so I'm going to drink this. Bear with me. This is me with my IT administrator hat on. And we can go in here in your M365 admin center, we can set up certain parameters around all sorts of Copilots that exist, as I said, in these business applications, and there's different settings that you might want to switch on and off. And these things are getting rolled out all the time. They're continually changing. Now, the good news is with your IT admin hat on, there are lots of different resources here, and good partners will be able to guide you through these as well. But when we've talked about, you know, that shadow AI, well, there's some things you can do about it, right? And Microsoft have helpfully wrapped some of these things up in data governance and step-by-step approaches as to how you can put this in safely, securely in your organization, but also, get the best out of it with the adoption hub and those sorts of things as well. So that's me taking my IT hat off now. And we will go through and sort of think about this now from a day-to-day task basis, which is what this session is all about. So it can do all sorts of things, right? And I thought it'd be quite fun to draft an email earlier, pretending that this was an email from Snow White to her dwarf. So I'm going to try and do the same thing again, and let's see if we can bring this into view. Maybe I'll do that actually a bit later on the live demo. But you can go in there, you can create a prompt, right? And you might say, okay, provide me with an email from Snow White to her 7 dwarfs on the health and safety issues with mining, and it will go ahead and it will prompt that. There are other sort of top prompts that might be useful in your day-to-day course, such as tabulate me a X, Y, and Z. It could be a project plan. It could be an approach to how you want to undertake your day, or anything like that. Here we have got an example moving a step on from just the typical prompting, which we've done before in previous sessions as well, and we'll do a little bit again later with the Snow White example. But here now we're taking this on to what we can see Copilot doing in each of these applications. And one of the things it can do with Copilot for sales is really, really useful, because I've not met a person in sales. I don't actually like to call it sales, but the reality is the world understands what I'm talking about. If I talk about sales, those people in sales, they don't like writing anything down, usually, about their meetings and all of these sorts of things. It makes it very difficult to work out from a business perspective, where you are, how confident you are in your forecasts for your success. And the great thing about Copilot for Sales is that it can take meetings, it can take emails as well, and it put them straight into a CRM system, which is, in our case, Dynamics for Sales. And we can get all sorts of telemetry out of that. And when we think about this sort of broadening out, we've talked about meetings there. Well, here we are in Teams. We've used Teams. We've had a meeting. It's been a catch-up meeting. So it could be from it could be anything. It could be a HR perspective or people perspective. It could be a catch-up around solutioneering, which is what we call sales here. It could be about outreach. It could be anything. But what Teams and the Copilot and Teams is doing is it's transcribing that, and then it's going through, and you can see over here on the left, got the speakers. It's telling us what the topics of the meeting are, the chapters of the meeting are, and really quite important is this summary. Comes up with a really good summary. You can have a skim read of it. It's got all the tasks in there, and we can bring that straight into your CRM system. Or better still, we've been use it on projects where, IT projects, those notorious IT projects where there's got to be someone else right in the room because they need to be a scribe to what's going on. Now, that's always been super important and still is in certain contexts. But the whole reason we did that so that we could concentrate on the conversation, right? And now, if we're having the conversation on Teams with Copilot, it's actually doing the transcribing for us, which is a great cost saver for the end client, and also a great cost saver in terms of time, because from a project planning perspective, of course, when we were doing those types of things, maybe it's a workshop, there's got to be some type up and, some admin afterwards. We can really compress that down now because we can use some of these outputs, quality check over that last 20%, and then add some faster value essentially in what we are doing. So I really like the ability to do that, and it has been yeah, amazing, quite frankly. What we've also got going on here as part of this sort of integrated journey of Copilot in sales and Outlook, in our website, sorry, in our Edge browser, those sorts of things, as we've got over here on the left. But is this way of organizing our day? Now, we can organize our day with that foundation layer that we started off, the prompting, right? The prompting of Copilot, our helper. I have a stack of tasks and I don't know where to start, I said to Copilot. And it actually quite helpfully, gave me some indicators as to how I could prioritize my life. Now, fortunately, I am prioritizing my life probably too much, quite frankly, because I'm a task-orientated person. But here, you have to, to prioritize your time, you need to work out what the tasks are, right? Well, say you've got the tasks because they're all in Outlook, and there's a bunch of things over there. Well, with Viva Insights and its Copilot-enabled journeys here, we have actually got some very useful things. My inbox, I'm not one of these people that, spends hours a day neatly filing my emails away. There are rules which can help us on that journey. And they are very useful. There's some great blogs out there, by the way, on making those rules up. And you can use Copilot to prompt you and how you create those rules. But there's loads, right? There's loads and loads of things going on in my Outlook. And this is really quite useful now because it's making sure I don't miss anything. I need to catch up on documents from Yola. There's some meetings that I should really be preparing for. And yeah, certainly if you get into these habits of, having meetings back to back, it's not a good habit, that we've all done it, it gets difficult to plan. This can really start to enable you, help you in Copilot to do all the things that we're seeing here, and enables you to catch up and just keep on top of things as you're going through your day-to-day life, which I think is pretty good as well. Now, I'm going to talk about this bit, automation, sort of ramp it up a little bit more. We'll go into a live demo, and then I'll just wrap up with some of the other bits and pieces, which we can also go into from a sales perspective, but also a little bit of horizon scanning as we go forwards. But before I do that, let me just take a quick breather and see whether there's any questions so far. It is all good. Right. Let me just quickly check the chat. And there we go. Okay, cool. Automation. Now, this is relatively new. So Copilot within Power Automate. Power Automate has been around for some time. It's Microsoft's tool for automating individual tasks, processes, got things there, approvals, solutions, process mining. It's all linked to their Power Platform stack. You can have a play with this. Really great content out there, but it's never been so easier as it is now, because what we can now do, as opposed to it's always been a low code or a no code solution, but the reality is it does require a little bit of knowledge, always has required a little bit of technical knowledge to get the best out of all of these things. And I've always felt a bit uncomfortable, really, with the whole low code and notion around this, because you can only get so far. Well, that blocker has now gone, because we have got Copilot in Power Automate, and it certainly is a low-code solution now, and I'm going to bring into view my screen here. So this is a demo environment. Here we've got Power Automate. We've got Copilot underway here. You can do all sorts of things. It depends on our imagination. Some great examples here, which would certainly add value to a lot of people's business processes. Could be things like send me a text message every time I get an email from Walt Disney. That really would be stuff. In my inbox. Outlook, I say it's an Outlook inbox. Press enter, off it goes. Let's have a think about this. And it's done it. Right? It's got a structure. It's come back with a structure that you need to put this in place. And now I can keep that and use this as a template to move forwards with. Another good one would be create me an email each time there the date for a record for employee record in Dynamics HR, each time the date for an employee record and matches today's date, and send an email reminder. Now I've deliberately worded it this way because the reality is there's a lot of business processes where there's a date that comes up and there's, you're chasing something or you're doing something, or you're trying to be reminded of something. So this could be anything really. It could be any system there. There's the Dataverse, there's Dynamics, there's all sorts of connectors in here. I think even for things like SAP and that sort of stuff nowadays. Don't quote me on that. We'd have to have a look. Well, I'll tell you what, let's not have a look. Let's try it out and see what that does. Just having to think about that again. So it's using the Dataverse here, which is that SAP can set on the Dataverse, and it's going through and it's doing that. So this is a really good way of creating those types of triggers and alerts. We could say actually every time I get an email with an attachment, every time I type a Power Automate, please spell correct me. That's what I need to Power Automate do. Every time I get an email with an attachment, save the attachment in a SharePoint directory. Because that, we all get that, don't we? It's like, okay, if it's this sort of email address, we do this with it, it goes there, then someone picks it up. It could be an alert on SharePoint. You could do things with it there. But hopefully get the feel for how easy that this is to generate automations now. It's really reduced the amount of development time and effort that's needed on some of these things. But what I also wanted to do today is use a little bit of the Copilot prompting as well. So let's just make sure that I'm getting into Copilot just a second, and I'll bring that across for you as well. What are your thoughts on that, everyone? Does that look good? What are you thinking? I'm pretty excited by it. I think there's so many business applications that I can think of where that type of automation can be generating immediate value within a business. And it's great to see some of these sort of things being weaved into the fabric of the application sets now. So here we are back with our entry-level sort of Copilot, really. We're here prompting. It's the types of prompts that can get you going day to day. And I did promise the Snow White one, so let's say, please create. Now you can do this with any email. Email from Snow White. Now I've said Snow White. It could be here that you say, please create me an email in the style of my writing, which is attached. And it could have been something that you've written before. And therefore it starts to imitate the way that you're putting your language together. But we're not doing that. We can we'll keep with this fun one. Her Seven Dwarfs on the changes to health and safety in mining. Now, as I say, you can draft any old emails that you want, but what you might not be doing is perhaps copying emails that you've drafted yourself, or wanting to change it in a certain style or make it specific to a certain audience. And you could ask it to rewrite it in the style of something. You could ask it for suggestions. So you could say, suggest ways I can improve this email if I were sending it to C-suite executives of the mining company. And then I'll just put that one there in quotes, drop my email into there. Now I could have attached it, but again, do it as well. So here it's, it's gone ahead. It's had a bit of a change and made some suggestions, but these are the types of sort of practical day-to-day things that you can come up with. The other one we were talking about earlier, which I do like, is tabulate. You can tabulate different things. So it could be tabulate a list of tasks for me to create a homemade aeroplane. Homemade aeroplane. Didn't they do that? I think they did that in that film Up. I'm sure they did something like that. One of those films. But here we go. And you could use this for any of your favorite projects, really. And in the style of, you could add columns to this, ask it to estimate certain things, and it can really start to help in that point of view. My IT friends out there and anyone on IT projects, best practice guidance, use user stories. These can be tied through to Microsoft's business process frameworks. And it's, it's not often I tout government advice, but even the UK government has advice on using user stories for your projects, because it's a common way which people can link things together. But you could say, create me a list of, whatever it is, 20 user stories for a purchase to pay process, which is AI enabled with Copilot. You press enter and off it will go. And if I'd thought about this, I could have asked it to tabulate it, and been even easier to copy out into whatever shape form I needed.
Thank you.
So those are a few useful tools, hopefully you've seen. Did someone say there's something there?
Yeah, hi, good morning. I missed where you went to start putting in these rules. Was it under, where did you go to do this?
So this is Copilot.
Uh-huh.
And, you can use copilot.microsoft.com.
Okay.
That will take you there. And if I just bring this into view, just do this with you.
I'm sorry, copilotmicrosoft.com?
Correct. Now, it depends on your licensing.
Okay.
But you should, yeah, see, there we go, that's that. And then it's going to take me through to this experience. Now I'm licensed with it. You'll probably see something else if you're not licensed with it. And if I take you back to this slide here, you may see something like that.
Uh-huh.
The prompting is going to be similar because it's still Copilot. It's just around its functionality. So it's still using a lot of these language models. And then, as I say, you can use this to create all sorts of things. And what we were there is just creating user stories. It could be project plans, emails, anything really, which requires writing. It can even do imagery. And yeah, we're always turning to this for imagery. And you can ask it to say, create me a picture of, you know, Snow White in a photorealistic sign. It probably won't do that actually because it's copyright things with Disney, but it does tell you if it can't do it, or you ask for something which is unethical, it won't do things that is unethical. But yeah, if it's some pictures for some marketing content, maybe a newsletter, these sorts of things, you can really get that sort of thing created quite quickly with things like this. Create me a maybe a cartoon picture.
So I tried to just pull up copilotmicrosoft.com and it's saying this site can't be reached. So maybe I just typed something in incorrectly.
Let's possibly, let's give you the link that I'm using here. Just drop this into the chat.
Oh, you're putting in the chat. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm just going to bring that. Okay, so let me just pop that in here. Try that one out. That should take you through to it.
Oh, I see there's a dot I'm missing. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then let's say you'll either see something like that, or if you start to get licensed, you might give you an option. It depends whether you're doing it on your work PC or a personal PC. But yeah, principally, you're going to end up with either something like I had on screen just a second ago, which is here, M365 Copilot, we're licensed for Copilot, or you've got the free version, which will look a little bit like this. And we'll just jump straight back into here, create me a cartoon picture. So it does pictures as well of a elephant eating cheese on the moon. Don't ask me where these ideas come from. They're unscripted, as you can tell. And off it goes, and it will create things. But this, you know, I've got friends and family that they've aspirations writing books and illustrations. Now, yeah, they might not want to replace someone with artistry and very niche skills and specialist things, but they might want to get some ideas about how they do some things, or they might want to just put a birthday card together. You could do all sorts of things with this, newsletters, all sorts of things. The world is really up to you. And it does things in different styles, but there's a good example of how you can use Copilot to create a bizarre image of an elephant eating cheese on the moon. That is the live bits and pieces that I was going to show you today. If we cut back to our presentation, I just want to wrap up with a couple of other bits as well today, because what you can also do, obviously we can go in here, we can ask it to create emails and those sorts of things. We can ask it to create outreach emails that might be successful for particular different audiences. It might be well received based on the language and nomenclature and intonation of an email. So using words like that can be very powerful when you're prompting. But to take this one step further, again, back to this embedded Copilot experience where you've got things like the Sales Hub in Dynamics, where you've got these sequences of outreach emails put together for you, but you can enrich them with Copilot, and it will go through and it will automate a lot of what you might be doing in terms of sending out emails for particular types of things. You've got the example here on the left of a webinar follow-up where we can start from blank. We can use their templates and we can enrich it with Copilot. And one last thing, this is getting weaved throughout the rest of the Dynamics stack. I know that there are a number of different roadmap items for Dynamics people or human resources, and that involves journeys around recruitment and the whole employee life cycle, essentially. But what we've got next coming up is what I've called making finance exciting again, because we've got Copilot coming to finance. And with Copilot in finance, we can do all sorts of interesting things. Now, this is at preview level, and for those of you who might not be aware, Microsoft tend to put things out into preview. They get feedback from people like ourselves to make the products stronger before they put them out on their final bit of the journey to go live. It's kind of like a beta testing thing here, but you can sign up for these previews and get involved to see what's coming. And yeah, we've all got to do finances and business, and the more you can automate it, the better, because the larger you grow, the more complicated it becomes. And there's some great tools here to accelerate your decision making, empower your collections, boosting productivity. So feel free to take a look at that and keep watching throughout the rest of the year, I would suggest, as to what Microsoft are bringing through in terms of all of the other Copilots that they are taking to market.
Gareth, I have a question. Is there a preference to Copilot versus OpenAI versus any other one that's available, ChatGPT, on the market?
There is a preference. It's my preference for Copilot, but there are many other products out there.
Well, why? Why do you have Copilot as a preference?
My preference for Copilot is because of the ability to manage it from a business perspective, an IT management perspective. So some of these tools have made the news because people don't appreciate who owns the data. And the data, whether it's marketing, whether it's AI, the data is worth a lot of money. It is belonging to different organizations and individuals globally. Some of those places have different rights on data protection, privacy, etc., etc. With regards to Copilot, we know it's a Microsoft tool. It's still using some of the language models, which are open source language models, like ChatGPT, etc. It uses more of them, but it uses some ring-fence data as well. So if there are things which you don't want drifting outside of your corporate boundaries, then that's very useful. But more useful is that you can actually use Copilot on your own information, which hopefully isn't exposed to the rest of the world, and you've got those data boundaries around it like that. And when I'm not too sure if you spotted the first bit of the call there, but if I just jump back to it, there is a number of different settings and things that we can do from an administrator perspective to really sort of finesse that and make sure that people are using it in an appropriate way, that the people with the right access, the usual IT things, but essentially around Copilot. So we're centrally controlling it. And there are elements of data governance which we can go through here to make sure that it is suitable for business, as opposed to, I know I do it as well to some degree, but what we call like shadow AI, where we're all going off and hopefully not exposing our corporate information to whatever model that we found on the internet, and there are many of them. Some are safer than others, I would say. But yeah, if you want to get the best information, say I'd like a finance spreadsheet of costs for a particular year, and I was then forecasting costs, I wouldn't feel safe sending that off onto the internet, but I would feel safer using Copilot as it is here, attaching in a Excel spreadsheet and knowing that it's locked down in its processing of that information, essentially. Hopefully that helps.
So you're saying that because it is managed by your IT department and they have particular restrictions on it, that you know that the data that you're, putting in there is only going to be within the walls or the computer walls of your business.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. It's a great question, a really great question. Thank you. Any other questions, folks? Okay.
Maybe just to add to that, Laura, Copilot is a large learning model. So if you put your company information onto a large learning model, it'll learn from that. The risk, of course, is that any competitor would be able to learn from whatever you put into it. So it's about taking your company data and putting it onto the public domain. And that's why you would use a Copilot as opposed to a different learning model.
Thank you.
I see. Thank you.
So we are kind of at the end of our session. Once again, these are weekly events. Let me just cut back to where we were. It's always great, as always, to spend time with you. I'm very grateful for you spending time with us whether it's the morning, afternoon, or night, depending on where you're watching from. Please help us make a positive impact. This is one of our free gifts today. If you use this QR code, you can make a donation with one of your impact tokens, which you get today, and donate to one of these fantastic projects. So please help us in making the world a better place, as always, by contributing to those projects. Now, I've talked about these rises with Microsoft licensing. We can tell you exactly how much money you can save on your Microsoft costs. So if you want to save money, then please reach out to us. We've got some amazing AI tools for our partners. They can sit there on your cloud, whether it's M365 or Azure, and start to assess on how you can best save money. So that is important for SMBs and enterprise companies alike, I would say. But one size doesn't fit all. We've got some really interesting managed services coming out, but everyone's got their own problems. You know, broadly, companies follow the same processes and those sorts of things, but there's always, you know, we're always on a different part of that journey. If you want to go through anything with me on a short call, then please reach out using the QR code there, and you can book a session with me, and we will go through that in a short 15-minute session and try to work out exactly what you can focus on in order to bring some value and a solution to whatever that is. So once again, thank you very much for being with us today. It's great to see you all, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.